Hello everyone and Happy New Year. Hope you had a great holidays with your family and friends. And we're back with episode 13 in a series where we create a design system in Figma called FDS. In this episode, we're doing button group, which is a group of buttons. And before we do, we've got a bit of housekeeping to do. So this is the app version of the button, button pill, and button icon. And we don't need the hover state. So let's get rid of all of these. That's because mobiles don't have a hover state. They just have a press state, right? So that's the reason I'm doing that. I'm just going to select all of these and move them back up. Do the same here. All right, let's just select that. Go over here and resize to fit. It's going to do button pill. Just remove all of the hover states. Move this back up. Resize to fit again, and then button icon. Okay, one more time. All right, let's go back to button. And the other thing we have to clean up is that the spinner in here in the app library is actually from the web library. So in the last episode, you would have seen me just copy over the buttons. I didn't update their spinners when I did that. So I'm just going to select the first one, go over here to multi-edit variants, just go up to spinner, go to created in this file, and then go find the spinner from here. Let's see if that worked. Yep, we're in the same file. We go back to button and I go to button pill and then search for where this is. See, it's in FDS components web. So we're going to select all of these and replace it with the spinner from this file. And then go to button icon and do the same here. Okay, now we're ready to make the button group. So let's go back to the web library. We're going to right click here and duplicate this page and then move it down. And then type group. Go and delete this here and let's go to component gallery and find an intro. There we go. A wrapper for multiple related buttons. Pretty much. Let's paste that here. And then let's go to assets and bring in one of the local buttons. So we're just going to grab this button and you can see that the icons are still on as well. So let's go back and do something else as well to these components. We're going to turn off the icons by default. So all I need to do here is select one of them and then turn it off, and then select the one that's trailing and turn that off as well. We'll do that in the other library a little bit later after we've finished creating this component. And that component is 328 from the top. So let's go back to button group. Make sure it's in the same place. Okay, now button groups normally have two buttons next to each other in a horizontal or a vertical array. And then when we do button pill, that's normally about maybe 6 that get used as like a filter or a way to choose different options. So that's what we're going to create here. So with this button selected, let's go over, drop this down and go create component. Rename this button group. And then duplicate the button that's inside. Okay, this has auto layout already added. So we're just going to add a 12 pixel gap between the two. This one's going to be called button 2 and this will be called button 1. Now, I'm going to change this to secondary just so the component looks good. And we're going to add a variant. So let's drop this down, add variant. This is going to be called orientation. And if we open up its options, we can put horizontal here. Okay, let's move that back over. Okay, let's create another variant by selecting here. And we can rename it here. So that becomes vertical. Let's move it out of the way. Just resize this manually like that for a bit and then select it and change its orientation from horizontal to vertical. Right, now we've got two buttons stacked on top of each other. Let's reduce the spacing between them when they're stacked to 8. So it's going to look like that. Now we can resize to fit. And with it selected, let's add a nested properties, turn both of them on. So when we actually use a button group, we can set the labels to something like buy now for the primary and find out more for the secondary. Right, now you could change this to secondary and change this to tertiary. But let's just delete this and change the title to button group before we go ahead and duplicate the page. This is going to be button group pill. So let's do that. Let's delete button group. Keep the description, but change this to pill. Then go and grab a pill component. So let's go back, go to button pill, grab this, move it into place. Let's zoom in. And just like the button component, let's go back to the original and turn off those icons. Let's move this over and resize to fit. Okay. And with button pill selected, we're actually going to choose the small because filters are normally not the primary action on the page and they shouldn't be taking up more visual emphasis than the primary actions. So let's use the small here and then go over and create component. Let's rename this button group pill. Duplicate the one that's in there 5 more times. So we have 6. Go to the bottom one, rename that 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Select 2 to 6 and let's make them all secondary so it looks like we've already made a selection or this is the active item. And then select the component and the spacing between them will actually only be 8. Then open up nested instances, turn them all on. Then we need to be able to show and hide the buttons from 3 to 6. So let's come to number 6, come over here and add a property of show button pill 6. Select button pill 5, do the same thing. Button pill 4 and 3. Then make sure they're in the right order. So let's come up to here and drag this to the bottom. Then you go there and you go there. All right, so if we drag one out, we can turn off a few and then come down and we can just change this to option 4. We can go to the first one, change that to secondary, and this one can change to primary. So then this one is the one that you've selected. And you might even want to add a trailing icon to the first one and change this to chevron down. Let's select 24. Because in some filters, this could show a menu. All right, let's delete that. And that's it for the web ones, because this one only needs an orientation of horizontal. We don't need to have a stacked version of this. So let's create these again in the app library. And back in the app library, before we do that, let's go and turn off the icons for this button. For button pill. And go back to button, duplicate the page, move it down just like we did in the web library. Change the title to button group, delete the component, go back to the web library, copy the description, come back over here and paste that, then go back to the web library and grab button group. We're just going to copy the component over to here. Move it into place, which is 48 from there, and what do we have? 328. Okay, now for the app one, you can still have buttons side by side and stacked, but they normally go full width. So let's do that. Let's just zoom in and select the buttons and replace them with the ones from this app library. So create it in this file, button. Let's check if that worked from this file. Yep. Let's go back, do the same here. Then we're going to change the width. So this is going to become 361. Then we're going to go in and select both buttons and change their width to fill container. All right, so that's weird, but we can go back to the original and fix it there. Okay, so it looks like it's being left aligned. Let's select all of them and change this to here. Now, let's go back and see if that fixed it. All right. I wonder if that's true in the web library. Let's go take a look after this. We're going to change the width of this to 361 as well. Grab both buttons, change their width to fill container. There we go. We've got a more app-centric layout. Let's go back to the button component. And when we centered this, let's do that to button pill as well, because we're going to have the same issue. Let's select all of them. Change this to center. And we don't need to do that for button icon. So coming back to button group, that's it for the app one. Now let's go back to components web. Go to button and see if that button is doing the same thing here. Yes. All right, so we know what to do. Select all of them, change this to centered. Do the same for the button pill. Okay, and these will be fixed as well. So if we were to resize this and then go in and change these to fill container, that would work as well. Now let's just turn on the leading icon, the trailing icon. Great, everything works. So back at the app library, let's duplicate this, call it button group pill. We might as well just copy that, bring it over here and paste it. This can stay the same. Let's delete that. Let's go grab the one from the web library. Over to here, let's just move it into place. And just like we did before, let's select all of them and replace them with the local button pill. This has a small version as well. Let's test it out. Yep, everything's working. And that's it for button group. In the next episode, we're going to be doing the sticky button. So until then, I hope you're looking after yourselves and each other. Have a great year, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.